I said, God, give me a sign. He gave me 5. He said, watch for the pride, envy and lies. He said, don't reach for hands if there's a tide. Don't tell them that you love them if they ain't tried. If they ain't tried, nah. They said I couldn't come out. I came in like Juggernaut. They said I couldn't.
Welcome back to a True Kings podcast. I'm your host, LJ Johnson. And today, I wanted to go over 3 things that God has taught me so far in 2024. God has done some amazing things for me over the course of my life. And today, or not really just today, but within the last few weeks, I've kind of just had this thought in my head just to come and share these things with you guys. But without further ado, let's get started. Now, please remember to like, comment, subscribe to the channel, as well as follow the channel on Instagram. But anyway, the first thing that God has simply been teaching me over the course of this year so far, within the first month of this year, we're now in February, within the first month of this year, is to not have idols. He's teaching me about idolization and how that is not good. Anything such as worshiping another god or simply just like chasing something, so like let's say you're chasing success, money, fame. I mean, those have to do with success as well, but let's say you're even just chasing another person or chasing a relationship where you're looking at someone else's life and going, I want that life, and simply just doing everything in your power to almost live the same type of life as them. That is essentially idolization. At least that is from my understanding. Now, you all may have a different understanding than me, but that is from my understanding. I'll tell you this, starting all the way back in high school. Well, first, before I tell you that, let me read this Bible verse to you. Leviticus 19:4. It says, "Do not turn to idols or make metal gods for yourselves. I am the Lord your God." God is simply telling us to, especially, do not put ourselves on a higher pedestal as we may as him, right? Do not put ourselves on a higher pedestal than everyone else. We have to simply kind of remain humble in that aspect. Now, going back to the story I was going to tell. When I was a kid still in high school, I used to look up to celebrities as if they were like gods. I mean, not necessarily like gods, but essentially like they were like the biggest things in this world. That, like, I used to look at their life, the cars they drive, the girls they would have, all of that. And I used to say, I want that so bad, that it got to the point to where even when I'm just a kid in high school, I started working a lot more hours at my job. I started buying a lot more nice things for myself. I started really, flexing a lot because I wanted to look like them. I wanted to be like them. But that's the thing. I shouldn't want to be like them. It's okay to want a nice life for yourself and even a successful life. And it's okay to work for that life. But full blown chasing it 24/7, where it's like, oh, I got to get up and I got to go to work. I got to do this. I got to do that in order for me to gain success for whatever reason other than the fact to please God is simply idolizing that life. You know what I'm saying? Another thing that I've come to understand is, like what I said, simply chasing anything. That includes relationships. The one thing that God really told me this past month, due to experiences that he allowed me to kind of go through within this last month, things that he allowed me to come across and hear. He was simply telling me that all because you may see specifically relationships. Now, everyone knows I'm all for relationships. I used to say I call myself a lover boy. I used to say that all the time. And honestly, I'm at that point to where I call myself that again. I used to say last year when I was hurting and everything that I wouldn't call myself that I hate being called that, but I would call myself that again because I'm a romantic guy. I love when people are happy, and I love relationships. God created us to be in relationships with other people in order for us to continue to grow for ourselves and for future generations. But I used to sit there and idolize relationships to the point to where when I was not in one, I would sit there and feel angry about it. Like it would literally hurt me to get online and I see someone else being happy because they have something that I don't have in terms of that relationship. But the one thing that he simply told me this past month is all because these people may be happy, may look happy online, may look happy in person, does not mean that they're actually happy because you have no clue what truly goes on behind closed doors. So here's a quick little story time. When it was 2022, 2022 played such a big part in my life. But in 2022, I was talking to this one girl. I talked to her beginning of the year, and then I ended up talking to her the end of the year. We fell out a little bit at the beginning of the year for reasons, but we ended up making up near the end of the year, and we started talking again. Except this time, she was talking to another guy. She actually ended up choosing this other guy over me. In fact, she dated this guy after we had fell out a little bit for a little bit of time. So she ended up basically getting back with him and everything, choosing him over me after they broke up. And they were, from what I always heard, was they were never really good for each other. They were always kind of toxic. But a few months after they got back together, they ended up having a child together. Basically, they ended up having a kid 9 months later, like that same exact month. They got together. They got back together. They ended up having a kid, and a kid 9 months later. And I used to sit there and I had so much anger in my heart towards that because it was just like, why are you gonna sit there and choose? Like, why does she choose him? All this stuff. Like, from what I hear, she's always complaining about him and everything, but yet she chooses him. And it used to not bother, and it got to the point to where I forgave it, and it didn't bother me anymore. And God saw that it didn't bother me anymore. So months goes by, I'm sitting there minding my own business, and the guy who she chose over me comes up to me in the gym. He comes up to me in the gym, and while I knew she was talking to someone else, he didn't know she was talking to somebody else at the time. He didn't know she was talking to me as well at the time. And he sits there and he's just having a random conversation with me in the gym. Like he's just talking, he's even motivating me. I'm like, does he know who I am? So I sit there and I say his name. He's like, wait, have we met before? And I'm like, um, no, we haven't really met before, but we used to talk to the same girl. He's like, who? And I tell him, I said, yeah, it's so and so, his current baby mama. And he's like, really? And we start having a conversation, and I felt a lot of conviction talking to him in terms of not necessarily like, I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it, but in terms, I mean, like, all he talked about was simply the fact that he has a lot of money, he's good and everything, and that he deserves so much better. He kept basically, it was nothing but complaints from him about her, saying how he wishes he never got with her, all this stuff. And the moment I got done with that conversation, like I said, I felt conviction because it was pretty clear that their relationship, God was not the center of their relationship. But but I knew that was God sitting there telling me, all because they may look happy, all because they may seem happy in person, does not mean they are actually happy. So it simply told me that God did me a favor by not letting me get with her, if that makes sense. And that was simply, I realized a while ago, like a little bit before that, I was kind of getting glimpses of not idolizing relationships, but that was the true sign that said, hey, Don't idolize that. It's okay to want one, but do not idolize that, because I have a better plan for you. So now I don't idolize people. I don't idolize other people's lives. I don't idolize people who are getting married or about to be in some nice relationship. I don't idolize people's lives and they have the nice cars and the money and the jewelry, the girls. I don't idolize any of that. Only thing I want now for me in terms of, I guess, idolizing something is a relationship with God. That's all I want in terms of that. Because I know God is going to lead me to having a better life, and He's going to lead me to having a better afterlife after death, if that makes sense. And so that is why I sit there and say, do not idolize anything. That is why Jesus says, do not have idols. Once again, I'll read the Bible verse to you. Once again, it's Leviticus 19:4. Do not turn to idols or make metal gods for yourselves. I am the Lord your God. So do not chase people who don't want to be with you. Do not chase the money, the cars, the girls, all of it. Do not chase that. Chase a relationship with Jesus, a relationship with God, and He will bring you what you want. Now, number 2, the second thing that God is teaching me, and this one is simply going to be kind of quick. All right. This one is going to be kind of quick because this one is something that I've been learning more over the course of the past year. And so this is something he's really been teaching me over the course since like the beginning of 2023. And I more so do this now than what I used to. And that is listening before you speak. Proverbs 18:13 says, "Listen before you speak, for two for if you speak before you've heard the facts, you will bring." Did I write that right? Yeah. Let me re-say that. All right. I kind of just messed that up. All right. Proverbs 18:13 says, "Listen before you speak, for if you speak before you've heard the facts, you will bring humiliation." That's what that says. It may be worded to you differently depending on the type of Bible you're reading, but that is what that says. Have you guys ever been in a situation where you were hearing someone talk and then you heard something you didn't like and then you instantly just cut them off, or you started just, you know, it what everything else they say just completely goes over your head, and all of a sudden you're saying something and it doesn't make any sense to what they just said, and now that they've corrected you, you feel embarrassed. I'm pretty sure we've all been through that before. We all probably have done that. Um, I'll tell you this. Uh, I know a lot of people who still do that to this day. People who are even who have, I would say, probably a better relationship with God than what I do at the moment. Like I hear them do this all the time. I can name one specific person who is very close to me. I'm not gonna call them out, but I can name one specific person that still does that. And it's listening before you speak is very important in life. Is very important. A lot of times we don't want to do that because, like I said, we may hear something that we don't like, something we don't agree with. But give people time to simply explain themselves. Give people time to explain themselves, and give yourself time to have an understanding on what they just said. It's not just listening and waiting until they're finished. It's also giving yourself time to understand what that person just did and said. If you don't give yourself time to understand it, then you may end up coming back out and being very embarrassed with something. I have another story time on when this happened to me. Um, I don't know if I want to say that story time. I'm think back to it, but that story time is really it's kind of dark. No, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. So basically, a couple years ago, I had just hit 100 subscribers on my other YouTube channel, and when I hit 100, I had a little get together or whatever, right? A little get together. It was small. Everyone was kind of busy. It was basically the beginning of fall as well, so it was kind of cold, but it was like, we were just gonna have fun, a little bonfire, whatever. Start a fire, had some sparkling drinks and stuff, and it was nice. And basically, I had the two people that mainly came. It was a guy friend of mine and a friend of mine that was a girl, right? I'm still friends with the guy. I'm not friends with the girl anymore. But basically, um, when they left, uh, she came and she told me something very crazy that he did, and it wasn't nothing too bad. I'm not gonna sit there and say, "Oh, this is like really bad" or whatever, but it was nothing too bad. But it was enough that made me sit there and go, "Okay, I have to check him." You know what I'm saying? But she asked me not to do that. She asked me not to do that, and I did it anyway. I went and I checked him anyway, even though she asked me not to. Because at the time, I thought it was right, but in reality, even if it's right, doesn't mean you should do it. You know what I'm saying? And so basically, I went and I kind of made things a little worse when I confronted him. But I got the point across. But it brought him more humiliation to them both. Whenever I sat there and I confronted him about what she asked me not to confront him about. And so what I'm saying is sometimes when you listen before you speak, it isn't just waiting until they're finished. It's not just waiting until you process everything I said, but it's also hearing on when they want you to approach something and when they don't want you to approach anything. That is honestly what I would say God has taught me within the course of this whole year. So now whenever someone sits there and they ask me not to say anything, they ask me not to do something, um, that can potentially affect them and even affect me, I really sit there and I pay attention because it's like this is something that could be very private and needs to be handled with elegance, which is why God is telling me to listen before I speak. Once again, that Bible verse is Proverbs 18:13. Go read it for yourself because I don't want to mess it up again. And the last thing that God is teaching me is patience. Now, I know that's kind of typical. A lot of people say God teaches everybody patience, but patience comes in many different forms. In fact, I'll tell you this: when it comes to idolization, listening before you speak, the biggest thing in all of that is patience. In my opinion, that is the biggest thing God is currently teaching me. Biggest thing Jesus is currently teaching me is to be patient, not just patient when it comes to wanting something, not just patient when it comes to listening before I speak, but having patience in life in general. 2 Peter 3:8 says, with the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day. That is in the Lord's eyes. So everything you see going on today, to God, to Jesus, this is like 1,000 years. It's like 1,000 years going by. Trusting in the Lord's timing is the biggest thing. Is one of the biggest things when it comes to God. It's one of the biggest things that we have to end up learning for ourselves. Because if we don't trust in the Lord's timing and we try to rush something we want or try to do something that He tells us not to do because it's just us trusting in ourselves and not Him and not having the patience to do what we need to do, to let Him work the things that He needs to work out. That is when you see all these problems arise. You know how many times I have simply not trusted in the Lord's timing in the past, and the things that I wanted, whether it was mainly with relationships, but whether it was relationships or maybe it was something for, I don't know, maybe it was some sort of clothes or whatever, like money, who knows, like just so many different things. Whereas like not trusting in His timing ended up causing me to end up getting hurt or very stressed out, and like it's like overthinking, for example. It's like what they say, when you overthink, you're basically saying you don't trust the Lord's plan for you. And I can see that. You know, I can't really say I've overthought in a while, But that's what I'm saying is simply trusting in the Lord's timing. You know, like I said, the biggest thing that I think a majority of people do not trust in the Lord's timing is, of course, when it comes to two things: money and relationships. So many times, a lot of people, including I've done it in the past. I think almost everyone has done it in the past, where we've sat there and rushed relationships way more than what we need to. I think almost everyone's done it in the past, where we've rushed getting money way more than what we needed to. And when you rush those things, y'all ever notice these like two things? When you rush into a relationship, that relationship never lasts. You know what I'm saying? Yes, sometimes you see relationships that are rushed into last for several years, but I mean like a full blown life, 20 plus years, 30 plus years, to the point to where when you both pass away, you live eternity with each other with the Lord. That almost never happens. Like the marriage and all that almost never happens when you rush into a relationship. When you rush to get money, the one thing I notice is when you rush to get money, you actually lose more money than what you make. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that one's just me. But I'm not gonna count y'all's pockets. But I can tell y'all with me, when I rush to try to make more money than just being patient about it, I end up losing more money than what I make. It's tough, but that's just the truth. Trusting in the Lord's timing can be very difficult because, like I said, there are so many times where we sit there and we try to trust in His timing, and we wake up and 40 years have went by. You know, I'm not 40 yet. I'm about to, listen. I turned 21. Let's see, what day is it? It's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I turned 21 in 4 days. But hey, I've heard so many stories of people not getting what they want until they're 40, 50, 60. You know, but like I said, the Lord's timing is so much different from ours. So in our human brain, we think we deserve something now, but truth be told, we don't deserve anything. We don't even deserve God's love. You know, we don't deserve the love. We didn't deserve Jesus to die on a cross for us because look at us, we're sinful. You know, we're always full of hatred and anger and all this stuff, right? Like even when the Lord sits there and tells us to do something, we still end up falling into temptation. Every day, I tell you, like with anything, whether it's we eat too much, whether it's sexual stuff, whether it's like we always fall into temptation. You know, we pray about it and we still continue to fall into it, but that's where we sit there and we have to ask for forgiveness and continue to build our relationship with God, because that is when He will sit there and give us grace. He'll give us grace and He will still accept us into His kingdom, especially if we know Him. So that's why you have to learn patience. But anyway, those are the three things that He has taught me coming into 2023. You know, if you guys can remember, I made on my other channel, it was a video a year ago I made on my other channel, my main channel, and I said there are four things, and it's stuck with me ever since. I said there are four things that everybody should work on, should want to improve on. Number one, their spiritual faith. Number two, their mental health. Number three, their physical health. And number four, their financial health. The two things I worked on more than anything last year was my mental health and my physical health. But I did not really work on my financial health, or not my financial health, my spiritual health and my financial health. Those are the two things that God has me working on right now. My spiritual and financial health. And I can sit there and tell you with these three things, they all align with those two things. Patience, idolization, and listening before I speak. all aligned with trying to improve my spiritual health and financial health. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this episode of a True Kings podcast. Once again, I'm your host, LJ Johnson. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share the video. One day I'm gonna try to get this on Spotify. But right now it's hard. Spotify is tripping with trying to get podcasts and stuff on there. But one day this is all gonna be on Spotify. But as of right now, we're just gonna keep it on YouTube, continue to grow on here, and once again, follow the Instagram page at a True Kings podcast, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Y'all have a blessed day and stay peace.